It was around 12:37 a.m. when I first saw him. I was driving home from a late shift, windows halfway down, radio off, just the hum of the tires on wet asphalt. The highway was empty, no lights, no cars, just rain streaking across my windshield and that steady, rhythmic squeak of the wipers. I wasn't tired, at least not at first, but the deeper I got into that stretch of road, Route 41, the quieter everything became. You know that kind of silence that almost has weight? Where it presses against your ears until you start hearing your own breathing? That kind. I remember glancing into the rearview mirror for no reason, just habit, and that's when I froze. There was someone sitting in my back seat. At first it didn't make sense. My headlights flashed off a road sign, and for a split second, I thought I was seeing some kind of shadow or reflection. But no, he was there, sitting perfectly still, his outline barely visible in the dim glow from the dashboard. I didn't look away. Couldn't. My chest tightened, and all I could think was, how? The doors were locked. I hadn't stopped anywhere. No one had gotten in. Still, he was there. He wasn't moving, just sitting, slouched slightly forward, like he'd been waiting for me to notice. I remember trying to act calm, like maybe if I didn't react, he'd stay still. My hands gripped the wheel tighter. I told myself, don't brake, don't crash, just keep driving. After maybe 30 seconds, though it felt like hours, I slowly reached for my phone. I thought about calling the police, or anyone, but my hand was shaking so badly that I almost dropped it. And then I saw something else. In the mirror, he smiled. It wasn't a big grin or anything dramatic. It was small, too calm, like he knew exactly what I was about to do. That's when I lost it. I slammed the brakes, swung the car to the shoulder, and twisted around, ready to jump out or fight or something. But the back seat was empty. Just empty. No one there. No sound. My heart was racing so hard I could barely breathe. I turned on the dome light, checked the floor, the trunk, under the seats. Nothing. Everything was exactly how it should have been. For a few seconds, I actually started laughing. That nervous kind of laugh when your body doesn't know how else to react. I told myself it was a trick of the light, exhaustion, maybe a reflection from a passing sign. So I started driving again. Slow this time, but when I reached the next intersection, about a mile down, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. No name, no profile picture, just 4 words. Why did you stop? I slammed my brakes again and stared at the screen. No typing bubble, no follow-up, just that. I looked back, again, nothing but the empty seats behind me. That's when I noticed something else that I swear wasn't there before. The passenger side window was wet, not from the rain outside. It had streaks on the inside, like someone had dragged their fingers through the condensation. 5 long smudges, perfectly spaced, downward. I drove the rest of the way home with every light in the car on, glancing in the mirror every 2 seconds, half expecting to see him again. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I just sat there for a while, rain still tapping against the roof, trying to calm down. Eventually, I got out and checked the car again under the porch light. Nothing. But I never deleted that message. It's still on my phone. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. I changed my number 2 weeks later. Brand new SIM card, new phone, everything. And yet, last night around 12:37 a.m., I got another text. Same unknown number. Don't look in the mirror. It happened 2 years ago when I was working out of town for a construction project. Small city, one of those places where everything shuts down after 9 p.m. The company didn't book us any fancy hotel, just a roadside motel called the Pine Lodge, right off the highway. The kind of place that smells faintly like old carpet and disinfectant. I was given room 9, ground floor, facing the parking lot. It was late when I checked in, around 11:45 p.m., and the manager was this tired-looking man with coffee stains on his shirt. He slid me the key across the counter and said, Keep the chain locked. Just in case didn't smile, didn't explain. I remember laughing nervously and asking, just in case of what? He just said, we've had visitors lately. Then he handed me the key and walked into the back room. That sentence stuck with me. Visitors. When I got to room 9, the air was stale. One single bed, a small desk with a flickering lamp, a mirror above the dresser that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in weeks. I unpacked, took a quick shower, and collapsed on the bed. I must have been half asleep when I heard it. A knock, 3 slow knocks, soft, deliberate, on my door. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. For a second, I thought I dreamed it. But then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up, heart pounding. I checked the clock. 2:18 a.m. Who the hell knocks at 2 a.m.? I got up quietly, trying not to make the floor creak, and peeked through the peephole. There was no one there, just the empty parking lot, a few dim streetlights flickering, rain starting to fall. I waited. Nothing. So I went back to bed, telling myself it was maybe the wind or someone drunk knocking on the wrong door. But about 10 minutes later, I heard something else. A dragging sound, like someone was slowly sliding their hand or foot across the door. Then, a voice. It was low, muffled, right outside. Let me in. I froze. It wasn't a shout. It was almost polite, calm. Please, let me in. My mouth went dry. I didn't answer. Then the doorknob rattled. Once, twice, harder the third time. I backed away, grabbed my phone. No signal. The knock started again, faster now, mixed with whispering. I could hear it more clearly this time. It wasn't just one person. It sounded like 2 or 3 voices overlapping, whispering different things. One of them kept saying, "You shouldn't be here." Another, softer one said, "You took my room." I remember standing there, barefoot on the cold tile, realizing there was no sound of footsteps. Whoever they were, they didn't move. They just stayed at the door. And then it stopped. All at once. Silence. I waited maybe 15 minutes before finally working up the nerve to open the curtain and check outside again. The parking lot was still empty, but right below the peephole, on the door, someone had pressed their face against it. You could see the oily imprint of a nose, lips, and one eye, clear as day. I barely slept the rest of the night. The next morning, I told the manager what happened. He didn't even look surprised. He just sighed and said quietly, "Room 9 again?" I nodded. He stared out the window for a while, then said, "That room's supposed to be locked off. You weren't meant to get that key." I asked what he meant, but he just shook his head and walked away. Later that day, when I came back from work, my stuff had been moved to another room. Room 12. There was a note on my bed. It just said, "Sorry about last night." I went to the front desk, but the manager was gone. A woman was there instead. Younger, maybe in her 30s. I asked her if she knew where he was. She looked confused. "There's no male manager here," she said. "I've been the only one on duty for 3 days." I drove back to the site, packed up my tools, and left that same night. Didn't even bother checking out. But here's the thing that still gets to me. A month later, one of the guys from our crew sent me an article, an old local newspaper clipping. It was about a murder at that same motel. Man in his 40s, bludgeoned to death in his room by a hitchhiker. The room number? 9. The date? Exactly 1 year before I checked in. And the picture of the victim. It was the same tired-looking man who handed me my key. It was my final night working at a small, 24-hour convenience store on the edge of town. I'd been there for almost a year. Quiet nights, the hum of the fridges, the flicker of the fluorescent lights. And I was honestly looking forward to leaving. The pay was trash, the cameras barely worked, and the boss never replaced that broken backdoor light. It was usually dead after midnight. Just me, the buzzing ceiling fan, and the soft static of the security monitor in the corner. That night, it was 2:43 a.m. No customers for almost an hour. Rain outside. You could hear the steady dripping from the gutter hitting a metal trash can near the back. I remember thinking how quiet everything was. Too quiet. Then the bell over the door dinged. I looked up, expecting a regular, but the door just opened halfway and stopped. No one came in. It stayed like that. Open about 6 inches, rain blowing in from the wind. I called out, "Hey, you can come in. We're open." No answer. I walked around the counter and gently pushed it open. The parking lot was empty. Just an old car parked at the far end, headlights still on. I couldn't see anyone inside. I called out again, "You good?" Nothing. I figured maybe someone pulled over for gas or a smoke, and the wind caught the door. So I shut it, locked it this time, and went back behind the counter. A few minutes later, I was restocking cigarettes when I heard the softest thud from the storage room behind me. It wasn't loud, just enough to make my heart skip. I thought maybe something fell off a shelf, but when I turned around, I noticed something strange on the security monitor. The back door camera, the one that usually shows the dumpster area, was pitch black. No light, no motion. The bulb must have finally died. Then I saw something else. Static flickered for a second, and for one frame, just one, I saw the outline of a person standing by the dumpster. It glitched so fast I almost convinced myself I imagined it. But then came another sound, closer this time. A slow creaking noise like someone dragging something heavy across the concrete. I picked up the small aluminum bat we kept under the counter and started walking toward the back room. Every step echoed. When I reached the door, I noticed the chain lock was dangling. Not broken, just unlatched. It had been locked when I started my shift. I was sure of it. I opened the door carefully and peeked inside. Empty. Boxes, cleaning supplies, the mop bucket. No one there. But the air felt wrong. Cold. Heavy. Like the kind of cold that doesn't come from air conditioning. It just exists. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds listening, and then, from the back of the storage room, I heard a whisper, very faint, like someone exhaling words through their teeth. "Don't lock it again." I dropped the bat and slammed the door shut, locked it, chained it, everything. Ran back to the counter and just stood there shaking. I stared at the security feed. The back camera flickered again. This time the static cleared for half a second. Enough to see someone standing right in front of the door I just locked. No face, just a dark figure, head tilted slightly, like they were listening. I called the cops, trying to keep my voice steady. They told me to stay inside, stay calm, and they'd send a patrol. 15 minutes. That's how long they said it'd take. But in that 15 minutes, the doorbell dinged again. Once, then again, slow, deliberate. I looked. The front door was still locked, lights from outside flashing off the glass. Then I realized something that made my stomach drop. The sound wasn't coming from the front door. It was coming from the storage room door. Same little ding, like when a customer walks in. I backed up until I hit the counter, staring at that door. It was shaking. The chain rattled lightly, metal scraping against metal. Then it stopped. Silence again. I stood there waiting, counting my own breaths, until the red and blue lights finally washed across the windows. The officers came in, searched everywhere. Nothing. Backlot was empty, no footprints, no signs of forced entry. One of them looked at the back camera feed and shrugged. "It's not even plugged in," he said. I told him I saw someone. I heard someone. They left after 15 minutes, told me to call again if anything else happened. But before they walked out, one of the officers turned and said, "You sure you were alone tonight?" I said yes. He hesitated, then said quietly, "Because when we pulled up, we saw the back door closing." I quit the next morning, didn't even pick up my last paycheck. The new guy who took my shift a week later, he quit too. He told me he heard someone whispering through the back door around 2:43 a.m., said it sounded like a man's voice, and that the voice kept asking the same question over and over. "Why did you lock it again?"